So that being said, just to quickly introduce myself and my company, my name is Stuart Weiler. I work at Elite Engineering Services, which is a part of the Elite Aerospace Group. You can see my contact here. You can contact me with any questions regarding Creo View, Creo Parametric, Creo Direct, anything in the Creo or Windchill suites. We cover CAD and PLM, of course. So a little bit about Elite. We are a manufacturing company, is part of the Elite Aerospace Group. We have a couple of factories that do produce parts primarily for aerospace. So we are running CNCs and mills and lathes doing the manufacturing. And we do all of that manufacturing using the tools that we're going to talk about today. We started as a PTC customer using Windchill primarily as the main tool. And that became the main reason we became a PTC partner, because we had such good success in our own factories using their products. So as a PTC partner, we do support the full product suite. We'll be talking about Creo and, well, Creo Vue specifically within the Creo suite of products. And of course, we also support Windchill, ThingWorx, MathCAD, Vuforia. And we provide all the services that go along with that. So a quick intro into who we are at Elite. And of course, we'll get into Creo Vue at this point. So I'll give a couple of slides to sort of explain and demonstrate what Creo Vue is, and then I'll open up Creo Vue and get you a firsthand look at it. So Creo Vue is a viewer for CAD files, and it is not specific to Creo. I know the name might be a little bit misleading in that sense, but Creo Vue can actually be used to open up various CAD products, and I'll go through that list shortly. But as you can see, sort of what is the purpose of Creo Vue? It can be the one tool that you use to view various types of CAD. It can be used throughout the company, and there's not really a limit to what it can open. So you can see it can open up different types of CAD files, whether those are ECAD or MCAD, being electrical or mechanical, various document types. And then an example shown here is a massive assembly would be a very large train. Having a little bit of an aerospace bias myself, I'll show you some things looking at airplanes. And of course, it works quickly. So Creo Vue as a viewer allows people throughout the company to use it. So engineers can use it to quickly look at CAD, but manufacturing can also use it to look at CAD for referencing. So while they're doing their production, they can open up the CAD file or the drawing, use that same tool to look at everything. And it's easy to use regardless of what that source is. So some of the things I talked about, you can look at 3D models. That means the structure or the bill of materials behind them, as well as some of the information about them. You can look at electrical details, PDF documents, and Office documents as a whole. You can open up Word documents, Excel documents in Creo Vue. You can also use Creo Vue to make markups. You can put notes on there, take measurements, and kind of show if there has a problem or you wanted to make a change request, you can make those notes in the Creo Vue file and use that as your reference, rather than trying to describe on the drawing in section H4, there's a fillet that is in the top left corner. Please make this adjustment. Instead, you could just put a note that's directly connected to that exact spot, say, this should be this, and show what the current is. So it makes it very clear to do those markups. You can review ECAD design changes. You can review MCAD design changes as well. You can view electrical schematics. And then it's particularly useful for model-based design because now you don't have 2D. So someone in manufacturing that needs to get the information on what they're manufacturing, they can't really print model-based designs the way that people are used to just printing out books of drawings. So instead, they can open up Creo Vue and use that to see the information presented to them, the various views, for example, but then also query additional information when necessary. And multidiscipline navigation means simply various disciplines of the company, such as production, manufacturing, quality, engineering. People throughout the entire enterprise can use the tool to get what they need. So quickly showing you some of the examples, various ECAD and MCAD formats that it supports. So some of the first line, Cadence, Mentor, Zukin, ODB, are all ECAD tools for electrical. And then for mechanical CAD, Creo, CATIA V5, SolidWorks, Inventor, MicroStation, IDS, Catis5, NX, AutoCAD. And then, of course, various neutral formats like STEP or IGES, JT, and VRML, meaning if you have a CAD tool that is not supported by Creo View, you could always convert it to a neutral format, like one of those universal constraints of STEP or IGES, and then you'll be able to open that in Creo View. And then, of course, all the 2D formats, drawing, DWG, DXF, DFF, etc. And even images. I can look at JPEGs in Creo View. So it really is one tool that I can use to view everything that I need to. Now, of course, you have options. If you have Office, Microsoft Office, you might want to use that as your viewer as the native tool as well. So it's an option, not, of course, a necessity. There are ways that you can expand Creo View's functionality. It does have an open API. I won't really get into that too much, but there are additional toolkits and there are ways that you can create your own tools and customization along with and in complementary fashion to Creo View. This is actually a Windchill 10. I'll show you from our database, which is a little bit newer. So the interface looks slightly different, but it is embedded in Windchill, so you have that full visualization directly in Windchill. And I'll show you Creo View from both inside of Windchill and as a standalone. It operates pretty much the same, regardless of which one. So if you are using Windchill today, you probably are familiar with Creo View because it's that viewer that you're using already. And then you have access to Creo View as a standalone application as well. So different ways that Creo View can be useful. You can see some of the pictures down below. They're pretty large assemblies. I think that's probably one of the more useful aspects of Creo View is that it lends itself to very quickly getting information from things that might be prohibitive to open otherwise. So to open up an entire oil and gas plant or an entire super tanker or an entire airplane would take a long time or a lot of resources. And instead, Creo View is a viewer. It is stripping out certain details, which makes the files smaller and easier to look at and a lot easier to manage. I'll flip through the animations here. As I was saying, it decreases the size of the data, typically between 1 to 20% of the CAD data. So for that reason alone, you're going to be able to open up your data a lot faster, makes it a lot more accessible, especially outside of engineering, because engineering does typically get the more capable hardware. You know, their computers are typically going to have extra processors, extra RAM. And if you have someone in one of the downstream departments that maybe has a more standard computer or laptop, or maybe even tablet, it doesn't have that same capability. It won't be able to open those larger assemblies. By using something like Creo View, it becomes possible and a lot more accessible to do so. So going through the animation, again, another example is if you look at a larger assembly, you may not necessarily know where the particular part or a particular feature that you're looking for is, and opening up an entire top assembly can be cumbersome. So instead, you can actually use something like Creo View for a positioning assembly, just something to show roughly where something goes, and then sort of lead you down the tree to the correct file. And if you create a Creo View file for various assemblies, maybe you're just getting, okay, this is going to show me where this goes, and that's the information that I need, leaving out some of the other information like the specific build tree that you wouldn't need, or you would need in the native tool, but as a viewer is not necessary. So as a result, it's a lot smaller file size, a lot easier to open these larger assemblies. It's sort of getting redundant, I guess, but you can see by using one tool to view all the different types of files, it's more consistent for the users. So if you've got someone that doesn't have a lot of time to learn different tools, they can simply use one as their viewer. And there are ways that as an administrator, you can certainly adjust the look and feel of it and make it more what you need for your users at your company. Excuse me. So the various groups that might use it, you can see sort of some quick examples of how you might use Creo View depending on what your role in a company is. So it truly is throughout the enterprise, engineers, supply chain, sales and marketing, management. Everyone has different things that they might do, they might look at, and it sort of meets all of those needs. You can do design validation and review. So if you want to create some animations, you can show those off. You can, as a group, look at a large assembly, do that design review, because you don't necessarily need to look at the individual parts, but you want to see the whole assembly. In a design review session, it makes it a lot easier to look at that. Look at what matters to the entire group or the entire company. Make those markups, make those adjustments that we discussed. And then you can also set up publishing. And this is very useful for model-based definition. It's also very helpful in a situation where you're using Windchill. You can automatically create these files. You don't have to save to Creo View everything. As you check into Windchill, the Creo View files are created for you automatically. You can set up what's going to be published, what's going to be visualized, and put in those features. So you can see in this top example for model-based design, specific views, specific notes and annotations being shown. And then you can also, from a design check, put in those annotated models, be able to capture all that information that you need. More visualization. I think I've covered everything in these slides. It is also worth noting that you have an extra level of security by using Creo View because it is not your native file. If I wanted to send someone a view of what I've designed, or maybe if they're my customer, I want to send them a view of the end product, what they're buying, but I don't necessarily want to give them all of the IP that goes into the design of those files, I can send them a Creo View file. It gives them the chance to see what they need to see without having given them that extra information that would be there if I gave them the native CAD. When I'm publishing or creating these 2D images or PDFs, I can put watermarks in as well, which is, as you see here, I can simply note something like confidential, do not distribute. You could put in your watermarks the dates if you wanted to be able to show when it was created, things along those lines to add security just for IP concerns or for ITAR concerns, for example. And of course, as promised, our airplane example, it's very scalable. So this is a very large assembly, and it would be a daunting challenge to open up the entirety of this model in the native CAD tool. I can open it in my Creo viewer as a way to get the information I need without loading absolutely everything. And this is a little bit more on the back end side, but for IT, it definitely lowers your costs because you can have one single tool that can be used to view various things. And it's also very easy to set up. I can very quickly install Creo View for everyone that needs it, and I can configure its settings, make sure it's universal, give everyone exactly what I need, and it's ready to go for everyone. So just a final thoughts for you. What are the benefits? Throughout the company, it's useful. It lowers your costs of development. It protects your IP. For engineering, makes it a lot easier to do your design process because you can do things like your design review. You can get your positioning assemblies, take measurements, share the information. And then interdisciplinary collaboration, it's a lot easier for me to send a view file downstream throughout the company than asking them to try to figure out how to use the CAD tool that I might be more familiar with and they have less experience. For manufacturing, it's a lot easier for them to use this one tool for everything. Maybe less prototyping because they're more involved with this design review. The more they can look at it and make markups earlier on, the less rework, the less scrap that we might have to contend with. So that's kind of what I wanted to show about Creo View. So now I'll give you a look at the tool itself. As I mentioned, I can use Creo View with a Windchill instance, or I can use it standalone. So to show you that, this is actually an assembly that I created. I have it saved in our Windchill database, but I simply opened Creo View first to show it to you. And you can see in this case, I have added some notes, and I can keep these in here as my markups if I wanted to use that as a way to explain to someone what they're looking at. So think of this as more of the example of I, as the engineer, created this model, and now I am passing this along to someone who's going to build it. And maybe this is going to be a model-based definition scenario where I don't have drawings. Or maybe this is just an additional piece of information to help someone build it, because my drawings might show my various views, my front view and a side view. But it's hard to capture what you can see by being able to rotate it around, but also control the visibility. I can turn things on and off. So for example, you can see the decking in my playground here. I can turn those off, and because of the way I modeled those individually, I can turn them on and off as I go. I can turn off the entire assembly, turn it all back on. Controlling that visibility means that now, as let's say the person that's going to build this, I can click on any item and see in the tree what it is. Okay, what I just clicked on here, that's the slide. So it makes it easy to go back and forth from the visual area to the tree, and vice versa. I see there's a slide. Oh, now I see it highlighted visually. I can tell what my bill of materials is. And the way I have this, I just have some quick examples of, part 1, 2x4 by 6, 2x6 by 6. So the name pretty much tells me what it is, but I can click to see where it goes and rotate around to find it. As far as the measurements, I can take my measurements and see what is the length, what is the distance. So maybe when I'm building it, I just want to do a quick check and say, oh, well, what was the distance from here to here? And I can see minimum distance. So I know, okay, the length of this part is this. When I'm cutting it, I need at least this much. It's worth mentioning right now, it's showing in metric. You can very quickly change your settings and make it a standard if you prefer inches instead of centimeters. Other measurements that you can take, a quick summary of everything. You can get lengths, distances, angles, diameters, total area. You can also take cross sections and various views. Gets you most of the information you need. And then to show you just the notes, you can see, for example, I already had some in here. I can add additional ones. If I wanted to send this back to someone with a question, I can add my notes, and then I would be able to do a save as, and I can save it as its own PVS or PVZ, doesn't really matter for my purposes, and then I could send that out to someone. So that now, maybe as the builder, I looked at this and I couldn't figure this out, I can add my note and then send that file back and say, please see attached questions, or please answer my questions as per attached, and when someone else opens it in Creo View, they'll see all those annotations that I added. So kind of a quick look at what Creo View looks like, and this would be what it looks like standalone. I have it as its own application. Now, if I have it open as in Windchill to see what that looks like, it's pretty much the same. So here's that assembly. Before, the way that I opened it was I just clicked on the visualization. It'll ask me if I want to open Creo View, and you can see I'm given my choices of, do I want to make a new session or add it to my existing? To keep it clean, I chose to load it as a new session, and it opens up my assembly. Now, the viewer in Windchill, this is actually not a static image. This is actually the Creo View file itself. So you can see I can move around. I don't necessarily have access to all the tools. I can't do markups in here, but I can rotate around, move, and see some of that information. And this is just within the standard details tab of Windchill. So Creo View is directly integrated into Windchill, and that's sort of an example of where. And you can see now in my Creo View file, I had the structure or the full bill of materials. Sorry, clicked on the wrong tab. if I click on the Structure tab in Windchill, it's going to show me that same information. So I can see that here. And so now these are all the various parts. Now, of course, the difference here is that it is grouping them. I can see instead of all of my individual items, I have the quantity listed. So 2x4x6, there are 7 of those. 2x6x6, there are 11 of those. And if I look back at the Creo View file, I'll see all that same thing. Now, again, the visualization in Windchill, you can see as I clicked on it, it's loading up, and this is going to be Creo View. Or at least it should be. No, I don't know where my files went. Ah, there we go. Apologies, everyone. I had my visualization turned off for the entire assembly. So now, of course, I can see that same visualization. So this is Creo View just embedded within Windchill. So it's pretty much everything that you just saw. I can fly around, move around, zoom in and out, do all the same thing. So whether it's a standalone or embedded in Windchill, it's going to have all that same functionality. I won't repeat it too much. So just to give you one more example, this is a larger assembly now. This is a landing gear assembly from an A380. Same idea as before. I have all the same functionality. I can hide and show my various aspects. So perhaps I don't want to see the surfacing or the outer area because I want to be able to find something. Maybe the question is, what is this point here? It's the 2-point middle bottom. And of course, the other thing I wanted to show in this one is I have both parts and assemblies. So you can see by looking at the names in the tree, I have a good feel for .asm is assembly, .prt is part. But that is also easy to tell because these have different colored icons and because the assemblies have a drop-down menu, and that expands the parts within the assemblies. So my other example I showed you, my playground, I just had all of my parts within a single assembly. Now I have a top assembly that has sub-assemblies, and I can expand all of these out, and then that allows me to control the individual parts, the sub-assembly, and the top assembly all together. So that gives you kind of an idea of the look and feel of Creo View. It is worth mentioning that there are a couple of different levels to Creo View. Creo View Express is free to everyone. And this is actually very helpful to everyone because that means, as the example I gave you, if I was the engineer and wanted to send this to someone, I want them to be able to view it. And using Creo View Express, they can do that. They can view my CAD or, again, the other file types as well, using Creo View as a free viewer, get that information they need, see what it looks like. It is a little bit limited on its functionality. So then there's another tier, Creo View Lite, and that's the version that's integrated into Windchill. And that's, as any Windchill user logs in, that's what they'll have access to. As a standalone application, that is a license that you can get from PTC. It's not very expensive, but there is a little bit of a cost. And then there's also a Creo View MCAD version, which has a bit more functionality. So depending on your needs, the free version will probably give you most of what you need. And then the light version is almost guaranteed to give you what people functionally need. Anyone using Windchill, I think, gets everything they need from that. So that's everything I wanted to show about Creo View today. I don't see any questions in the chat session at the moment, so I'll give everyone a little bit of time in case there were any questions. But of course, if not, you're always welcome to contact me. I'm happy to tell you a little bit more or pass along any more information for you. And Creo View is a great tool to work with in collaboration with other CAD tools. Of course, it works well with Creo, but the nice thing with Creo View is that it does work well with the other CAD tools. I can use it to view SolidWorks, CATIA, etc. One question I see here is, can markups be saved and sent via email? Yes, absolutely. So I'll give you an example of that. In my playground, I had added these annotations. So if I do File, Save As, I can choose PVS and PVZ. The difference is that PVS is going to be individual files versus PVZ is a zip type file. It's a little bit smaller. So that's usually the one I start with. When I want to save it, I can just save this to my desktop, and I'm going to call it Playground Marked Up, and I can save that. And the annotation set that I created, that's going to be saved. And now from my desktop, there is the file that I have just created, and I can now send that to someone. And you can see it's only 84 kilobytes. So it's certainly an easy thing to share and send by email. As a follow-up question, it looks like, if so, can they be stored in Intralink? Yes, absolutely. So first off, for anyone that's not familiar, Intralink is the precursor to Windchill. So it's a PDM system. So now that I have a file, in this case, a PVZ file that I've saved, I can save that back into the database, whether it's Intralink or Windchill, or if you're using a different PLM tool, same idea. It's now a file I can save. And the example I like to use is, think of it as a way to start something like a problem report or a change request. I can add my PVZ file into the database and then attach that to a change request, say, please make changes as per attached markup. Another question was, can a step 242 be opened? Yes. Yeah, I believe pretty much any version of step is supported, but I know for a fact that 242 is definitely supported. And a follow-up question is, are there ways to filter combined states? Yes, there are. I don't think my examples that I have open have combined states, but yes. And for anyone that's not familiar, combined states are basically a 3D version of the various views you might see in a drawing. So if you think of a front view, side view, left view, you can save a state and then make that basically like a checkpoint that someone can go through, click on, and it would, I click on, I have left, then I click on front, it'll automatically spin it over, and the combined state will also control the visibility. So if I had chosen when it's in this view to hide certain elements, those would also be hidden. So there's more to Creo View than I showed today. I didn't want to go too deep into it, but you can see we talked about design check. There are ways that you can kind of go through that. You can also use some of the technology from Vuforia, and that is part of the augmented reality. I talked about cross-sectioning. I again didn't want to get into that, but this goes with combined states. You can sort of click through to see those. And then the animations. If I had created animations, I can basically hit play and it'll go through and show my animations. All right. Well, with that, I'll give everyone just another moment to see if there's any other questions. All right. Well, at this point, thank you everyone for joining. And if you have anything else you'd like to see or discuss, please feel free to contact me, and I'll be sure to send out the recording for everyone to further reference. Thanks for joining. Have a great day.